Okay, we're gonna start at 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Our TV guy says it's okay now because it's 6 o'clock. I'm gonna bounce the agenda around a little because I made a couple promises to people. So, before we do anything else, Rich Schoonmaker. That's what it says. Schoonmaker. Rich.
I can be rich, that's what you want.
Okay, anyways,
Thank you.
we'll give you the floor first.
Thank you very much. Randy Shoemaker from Southeast Vermont Transit, the Moover. In 1999, the Dover School decided to stop running their bus service from Dover School to DUHS. And we were funded with a route that year to go from here to Wilmington to Brattleboro. So we were running that service and providing school choice in conjunction with the school board. We saved at that time about $40,000 a year, we think.
60.
And the school board was very generous. They gave us $4,000 as a contribution towards the local match of our route. And so I think it was win-win for everybody. And for the last 25 years or so, we've been the recipients of that funding, so thank you very much. I think it was 3 years ago that the school board decided to return and run their bus again from Dover School to Brattleboro. So gradually, over the last couple of years, our ridership is down to the point where it has evaporated as of very early November. We have nobody on it anymore. So we come to you tonight to say our board has voted and the state has accepted for us to eliminate that section of route that goes from Dover School to the Westover Firehouse, to the Marketplace, to the Old School Community Center, and from there it met the Brattleboro bus or the Twin Valley bus. So there's really nobody from Dover attending those schools or riding that bus anymore. They're riding the Dover school bus. So we're proposing to eliminate this route on, the last day would be Friday, February 28th. And we have a 30-day public notice period that we need to start soon. But I wanted to come to the school board tonight and thank you for your support and let you know ahead of time that we're contemplating, we are going to do this move if that's okay. And the kids are all taken care of thanks to the service you're running. And thanks for all these good years and all your support.
Thank you, Randy. Any questions for Randy? I think what it was is I said that you want to go there. So it was probably like Rich said that.
Yeah, I just want to mention, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that I don't know if you've built the $4,000 into your budget for this year, but
No.
we no longer need that.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Well, I
you'll-
mean, we're doing budget now, so.
Sure.
Yeah. But we appreciate that. And it was a good service. We actually have asked Randy several times over the years to take over transportation completely for our area, but unfortunately his contracts don't allow him to do that. They not allow that to happen because they can't use. I think there was if you run a bus, anybody can ride it, and that was some of the early issues with the Moover bus was that people like, well, there's other people on the bus or there's adults on the bus, and so, but it worked out really well, and you had some really good drivers on that route who really looked out for the kids, so it worked out really well. So, any comments from the board or anybody? Laura hasn't joined us yet, has she?
No.
Okay, well, you
Thank
got
you.
off pretty easy.
Thank you.
I don't know if you got off as easy as Andy's gonna get off.
See you, Brad.
Thank you, Randy.
Laura's here now.
And then I asked Andy McLean, our district clerk, to come in because since we're talking about budgets, we have to think about dates. And, Andy's in charge of making sure that we get it warned in the proper length of time and what he needs for reports, when he needs reports and a meeting agenda, a warning, and
So, I put together some calendar for you, and basically we can just go through that real quick. Go forward. So, starting off in March there, you see town meeting. Everything else is related to our annual school meeting. Petitions from the public to have articles appear on the warning are due March 13th. I assume you're having a meeting on March 17th. That would be a good time to sign the warning, to have the warning all done and ready to sign. Also, office petitions are due for folks' names to appear on the ballot on March 17th. The 28th of March is when we have to post the warning for the annual meeting. I will have the ballots ready by the 8th of April. We have in the past warned the meeting and the election in the paper. If we're going to continue doing that, we should do it by April 15th. It's not required because we've chosen to warn the meeting by distributing the school report with the warning in it by the 18th of April. You have a pre-annual meeting, I would assume, on the Monday prior to the annual election on the 21st of April. The election takes place on Monday the 28th. Then the meeting, the evening of the 29th of April. The next little item in your package there is a warning. I just took last year's warning, changed the dates so that they would be this year's dates, and I highlighted budget numbers and numbers you may wish to change or will need to change, because they're just the numbers from last year, the ones that are in there currently. Also, on the signature page, so Chad Starro resigned, is that correct?
Yeah.
And you appointed a replacement? Hi.
Hi,
What's your name?
Eli Porter.
Eli Porter. E-L-Y.
Correct.
Porter like it sounds.
Yep.
Thank you, Eli. Okay, so the next page are the terms, present terms for you guys. Looks like the folks, the positions up in Dover, it's Laura, and in Wardsboro it would be Eli's positions. They'll be on the ballot. Next page is a petition to get your name on the ballot for one of those positions. Requires 21 signatures of voters. You can, even if you're the candidate or you're running for the position from Wardsboro, you can have people from either town sign the petition. And when we vote, both positions go on the ballot for both towns. So everybody's voting, even though there's a Dover position and a Wardsboro position, the whole district votes on both of those positions. That's all I got.
Cool. Any other questions? Bob, you all good?
I just have a question. What was the date that you needed the mailing of the annual reports to be in people's hands?
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, we're gonna send you one of these. We're gonna send a packet back with Heidi, so she'll have it for you in your office. But it's,
Yeah, it's, they need to be distributed by the 18th. And I think technically by law, you could get away with mailing them with a postmark of the 18th. Of course, that doesn't give folks much time to get them in their hands by the pre-meeting, which is the following Monday. But drop dead date, I guess, is April 18th. Get them in the mail.
All right. Well, soon, I mean, from the standpoint of the person who creates it, as soon as we have an adopted budget, we can go to press because everything else will be ready to go. So it shouldn't be a problem to do it by then.
Sweet.
so Bob, we have to sign on March 17th-ish, we have to sign the warning. Cause he has to
Yeah.
post it by the 28th, so it'll be sometime that third week of March.
Yeah, plenty of time.
Yeah, it'll come up quick. It's getting like 2 minutes of daylight every day, more than we had yesterday. So, are there any questions for Andy? You guys got a question? Oh, okay. Just whisper.
Is the annual meeting in Wardsboro?
Yeah, this year's in Moover.
So we just do the one pre-meeting.
No, we always do, because the warning's already done. We'll review the warning in Wardsboro on the 7th.
Yeah.
And then we'll review, we have an actual meeting to do, we call it a meeting, because
Yeah.
the articles say that we have to
Right.
present within 10 days, 7 to 10 days before in the town that we're not meeting in. But we've always done, so like, remember, we always switch those two meetings
Switch the
in
meeting,
April.
Yep.
So that if we're doing it in Dover, we'll meet in Dover the first meeting and switch it around.
Yeah,
Cool.
thanks. Great.
All good?
Very organized.
That was really easy.
Yeah,
Good.
great.
We got it figured out.
Yeah,
That's good.
thanks, folks.
I like the visual calendar, thank you.
Yes. High
Yeah.
tech.
Yeah,
So if somebody doesn't mind, I want to just keep my packet. If somebody doesn't mind giving it. Did
I
you-
have a packet
Yeah.
Oh, you
I
have
have
one?
Yeah,
like to bring.
there was
Oh,
one.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So
Good.
do you
I
want
just want to
this
make sure she had.
back?
No, no, no.
Over this one?
Did you
I'll
guys
take it
want
back.
to see the packet?
Pass
Pardon?
it back.
Sharing.
You need it back?
You good? Okay, you have it?
She doesn't
I
have
was
it.
gonna
so-
give it to Heidi.
Yeah,
if
I have
anything.
it.
I wonder,
Oh, you
but
already
Heidi
have
has
it.
one.
Great, gotcha.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to the agenda in order. So additions or deletions to the agenda, we've already made a couple moves, but is there anything else on the agenda? This is really awkward. Is there any chance you guys could move over there? Well, because you're toward back, and if you raise your hand, I can't see it. So, if you don't mind. So, any additions or deletions to the agenda? Oh, you're good. You're good. So, okay, members of the public. I don't know how you all came in, but we'll start right there. Do you have anything for public? No, Randall?
Yeah, I'm all set. I just missed these meetings.
You just what?
I missed the meetings. I
Okay,
heard
the
you
chairs
sitting
aren't as
there,
comfortable either.
And I know.
There's one back there you can have. Go ahead. Anything for public?
No,
Oh, your staff.
we're staff.
Okay, I'm sorry. You separated out? I don't know who we have on TV. Can't see that far. I got Tracy, Ashley. I don't know who's staff and who isn't.
It's hard to see all of the names.
Yeah,
too.
there's more names than we got. Is there any public that'd like to say anything? Any public? Okay, anybody from the staff? Any staff on TV? Cool. Old business, budget discussion, FY '25 current projections. Why don't we start with that, Heidi?
Sure.
So, do you have that in the packet? Is there current, where we stand currently?
A fund balance, it should
Yeah.
be the last page in your packet. It was
Okay.
attached and I assume Sue made, yes.
Folks, we're
Yes.
looking at that there. You guys all have one, or do you, okay. So
that's-
this is, so your estimated ending fund balance, and that's just a guesstimate, because
Yep.
if more people move in or people move out, it can change. But in the general fund, you're projecting a surplus of around 187.
Yep,
In the FFB fund, you're projecting that we're going over, because I
Well,
see we don't have that.
it's the funding hasn't come in yet and I'm assuming it's gonna even itself out. We're trying to get that straightened out because I know there's grants for both Wardsboro and Dover.
Okay. The food program, we're looking to be in the hole quite a bit.
Yeah, the expenses have been high, but I'm working with Dover right now and now that the vended meals are being done for Wardsboro, I think the overspending you're gonna actually see it pulled back, but I need to get a couple months under our belt to really see the difference. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was hard to really come up with a number. So if we continued on the trajectory, we would be over, but your vended meals are saving money, so I think we'll be okay.
Okay. So in the 1980s, when they said here in this building that lunch program will never cost the taxpayers a dime, they lied to us.
Yeah,
Okay. Just as long
I
as
think
we
we
know
knew that already, though.
Yeah. It's not the 1980s
Yeah.
anymore. Reserve fund,
That's what you have left, the 969,000, 50% went into your capital for pay the roof, 200,000 went to buy down taxes for your articles last year. So you're ending, so right now we're showing 969,000.
okay, but that doesn't include any up or down with any surplus from this year.
No, that is with the surplus, with the audit,
Right, no, but I'm saying that's a fixed number, that's
that
not
is a
gonna
fixed
change.
number, right, unless you choose to, yes.
Okay, and then capital building, we're at 116.
Right, we put the 400,000 in based on what you voted on
Right.
last year. You've spent 410, you had a little bit to start with of 126,000, so right now, if no more is spent out of your capital, you're gonna end up with 116,000
Left in the building.
left in the capital
And we
building
don't,
fund.
right now, Greg is out here, isn't he? Hey
Yes.
Greg, do we have anything coming up out of capital for buildings in either location?
Negative, sir. I do
Okay,
not believe we have anything.
cool, thank you.
Yep.
And then the transportation fund looks really bad because of the
Because we're waiting for
reimbursement.
that.
Yeah.
And I've had multiple emails back and forth with the EAP trying to follow up, and they keep changing. They want a little bit of something taken out or a little bit of something added into the payment request. So it's just a matter of them finally being happy. I had to add infrastructure costs into the original one. Now they wanted infrastructure costs taken out of it. So
Okay.
we're just trying to keep their T's crossed and be happy.
So when is the Electric Avenue bus showing up?
We haven't ordered it yet.
Richard,
Yes, Laura?
may I ask a question?
Sure, let me finish the one I just asked. So we haven't ordered it yet?
They won't without a deposit, and wanted to make sure we had this in place before we ordered the bus.
Oh, okay, I thought we already approved to order it.
I'm assuming you want to make sure the funding is in place.
Well, yeah. I mean, I
So-
thought we were told the funding was in place.
There has been no, yes, we awarded it, but there has been no like, okay, we've finally accepted your payment request. You will get funded at X date. So that's what I kind of thought we were waiting for.
Okay, no, that's fine. For some reason, I thought we had ordered it. I thought we were guaranteed to get the money.
I
They
feel that
did
way,
approve,
but
they did approve
I
the
do-
funding. I think this is more administrative that you're just.
I think so, unless President Trump changes anything.
Well,
Yeah, real quick, sorry, Rich, to just jump in on that. So I was called last week by Jim Anderson from the bus company, and he seemed very uneasy. I guess I would say, like, he was like, "Oh, have you gotten your funding?" Because not many people have, like, he just, you know what I mean? And he was like, and I can't order it until I get the deposit. And I was like, oh, I think we're all set. Let me just check. And then, you know, Heidi's kind of gotten the runaround for the last few days since then as well. So we're a little tentative here with the regime change and all that they've been signing off on and doing. So, you know, we were definitely trying to kind of hedge our bets on that to protect ourselves.
No, that's a really good, I'm glad we did that. Laura, you had your hand up. Are you wanting to comment?
Yeah, well, we've gotten to my question, and what are we?
You're breaking up. Can you try again?
Laura, you're in a really bad spot. Sounds like Morse code. Laura, if you can, I guess we'll try you in a couple minutes, let you get to a better spot. So basically, looking at the three on the top, the 187 that you're projecting, that's from operating for this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you take off the 32, so we're thinking around 140 to 150 possibly for fund balance at the end of the year.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And we've paid off, the tuition's been paid, all the tuitions?
All the tuition has been either encumbered or paid, and that would be included in my year-to-date expenses because we've encumbered them.
Okay. Were there any positions that we put in the budget that we didn't fill this year?
I don't know,
Yes.
the para-educator position in Dover,
Okay.
yeah.
What was that roughly?
I have it down at 35,000.
35. Okay, so that could still be filled?
No.
No, okay. Cool.
Can you hear me now, Rick?
Oh, we hear you now. Where'd you go?
I apologize. So my question was, are we negotiating with the federal government still on the grant? Or has the money been awarded by the federal government to another entity and that we are negotiating with that other entity?
So according to the original grant letter, River Valley is the one that gets the grant, and that's who we're expecting it to be awarded and paid to, is River Valley School District. So it is we're just waiting for the EPA to finally say they're happy with all the documents and that they will fulfill.
Okay.
So it's not like a
Okay.
sub-grant, it's not like
It's
the
not
money went to the
subgranted.
state of Vermont? and-
Nope, it goes straight to River Valley.
And I thought I got yelled at when I
That was
thought.
not my question. So
Oh.
my question was, who are we dealing with? So we're dealing with the federal government. And so I apologize for breaking up and busting off. It does seem like caution is the word. And I wonder if we have touched base with the federal delegation and if they could give us any guidance on this.
I mean, I've reached out by email to the EPA. It's hard to actually get somebody on the phone. They seem to only want to communicate.
Yep. So I think that I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think we should get connected to someone from the Vermont delegations office, Ballant or Welch or Sanders,
Okay.
and ask them for advice on this grant.
Got it.
So there'll be someone in their office that can help us decipher what's going on and what the most prudent action is in this moment, probably.
It did seem.
Thanks, Rip.
It did seem
Thank you.
from the reading the emails, it was more of administrative, just correcting some minor technicalities in the application. So I don't, as much as I'm not, maybe we should just go down that avenue first to make sure, and then if we're still hitting roadblocks, then.
But also, I mean, we've been dealing with this since we voted to approve this back in
Right, but
November.
it's the next stage of the application, just to make sure
Okay.
our ducks in a row. We have been approved the money, now they're just making sure the request is accurate. That's really all they're asking for.
Okay, because like, if you go to order a truck, you're two to 3
You're not
years
ordering,
out.
you're not ordering for the federal government.
Right. You are definitely 6 months out, and if the board wants me to go
Oh, no,
ahead-
no, I'm saying years out.
No, we were told, well,
Jim Anderson said probably
about March or April we could have.
Yeah, but we haven't ordered it yet.
right. We have it, so it's at least 6 months. Yes.
Right, so.
So would you like me to go ahead and order it?
No, I
Okay.
think it's a good idea, because I remember too, when I said we're getting a grant, and my hand was slapped, and it was not a grant, it's a
Rebate.
rebate, right? So that's why I just, are they waiting for us to spend the money, and I
No.
don't wanna run
No,
into
I've
another.
gone through the paperwork. They're not waiting
Yeah.
for us to spend the money.
Okay, cause I also, we're still waiting on money to reimburse us for, damage on the building when they were doing the testing. And, they keep
Right.
asking us to lay out money, and then they keep talking about the
That's- Excuse me, Richard.
Go ahead.
That's different, right? That's the state. So I think it's important to be careful here, right? That money for the building is from the state, right? Or is that also from EPA?
No, I think it's a grant from the EPA to the state, and then the state's handing it off, but I'm just saying that, we still haven't had, the testing was done a year ago, Tracy?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
they still haven't fixed the damage, and,
We're still not done.
And
right.
we still have testing
Well,
to do.
we're in a holding pattern, aren't we? Because there's
Yes.
no more money, and I just don't want to order a bus figuring that we're going to get money and then never see the money.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I think all in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, too, I don't want to wait because, now if if we're moving to a new model year, we looked at this in October, November. Are we looking at another model year and did they just up the rates, 20% because it's a new and improved model and they put a little wing on it or they put a tail fin on it? I don't know it's kind of like you're between a rock and a hard spot. I didn't want to waste that much time on that. So, whatever we need to do to push it along.
I will continue to be on top of it.
Yeah, that just. Okay, cool. So that's current projection, so we look good. We're not showing a deficit, which would be really hurtful. So then we got the FY26 budget. So for you all folks, so you all know, and people in TV land, what we do is with the budget is Heidi, our business manager, and Bob work with the building administrators to put together a student-centered budget first. So we look at expenditures, recommended expenditures in a budget before we look at the numbers and taxes and what we need to raise and what we need to spend. So this is this budget that you got in your hand right there. And I think, Heidi, you met with both building administrators.
Yes.
We're very fortunate that we have Tracy's in her second year of putting the budget together, and we do have a veteran administrator in Wardsboro, although it's her first year doing a Wardsboro budget. So why don't you kind of just run over the highlights of the budget?
Sure. So my narratives of the changes were, in Wardsboro, they hired a nurse that was part-time, so there is a savings of $30,000 from the current budget year because we had budgeted, or you had budgeted, for a 1.0 FTE. So there's that savings that will continue. Wardsboro has decided to reduce a paraeducator, but Wardsboro would also like to have the addition of a specific math and EL teacher to help with their grades. So we're kind of offsetting a little bit, reducing a paraeducator by $30,000. I put in removing. So currently the Dover custodians help with some repair and maintenance at Wardsboro. So there's a small savings there because we've removed Jim Hescock for the repairs and maintenance of $5,500. We took out the Dover paraeducator position that went unfilled and won't fill that. And then I looked at the vended meals for Wardsboro, and moving forward, Francesca really thinks their whole school is enjoying the vended meals, very happy with the work that's been done, the food that they're getting, the service of the food. And so with that savings, looking at Dover's kitchen now and the fact that it's around 70 and reducing, so there's a reduction of 2 staff, keeping 1 person in the Dover kitchen and doing the vended meals through West River. There's a savings in transportation, there's some savings in food, and that reduced it by $89,000 by my calculations. In terms of other additions, there was a request to have some money for field trips in the Wardsboro budget because they don't have a line item for field trips, so we put in $2,500. There is still significant boiler repairs that are being done, and so we wanted to make sure we upped that a little bit. So that was an additional $20,000. And there was a stipend for the pre-K teacher to start handling more of the director paperwork for pre-K. So we put aside a stipend of $5,000 for her. Those were the wants and the reductions that the principals I spoke to talked about. I do want to say Tracy and I talked a little bit about potentially Jake from West River overseeing the ordering, meal planning, and Titan reporting for Dover, and we could save a little bit more. I was looking at if we paid Jake a $10,000 stipend to sort of take on that work, that you could pay a lower rate for the person in the kitchen. So there would be you would pay 10, but you would save 20 kind of thing if that was a direction that the board wanted to go in. Otherwise, we can go over the budget and we can go through the lines. I wanted to just start with saying those are the things that your principals talked about changing.
So overall, you're looking at about a $650,000 increase, which equals like 9.5%.
Yes. Obviously, there's the increases of health insurance. There are the increases to salaries. I put some money aside, the support staff, the board would decide about a raise for the support staff, but the teachers already have their contractual raises, so that's in this budget.
And what about tuition? What did we do?
Tuition, I created actually I can share, I brought a spreadsheet. I did calculations based on what students were currently being budgeted for and looking at what we expect to graduate and what we expect to matriculate into tuition. And so based on this spreadsheet, I have come up with, let's go down to that spot, 28 students tuitioning to public school, 51 students to private schools, 8 to non-Vermont private schools, and 19 students being tuitioned within the SU.
So tuition is actually up.
The increase to Burton was a almost 5% increase. So, and you have a majority of the students going there. Leland and Gray is following suit with that, a increase. So yes, there's definitely a pretty good percentage increase in tuition.
It's more like students rather than the percentage of the increase. I mean, you're showing unless I'm missing it, going from 62,000 to 167,000.
Well, sometimes that's the placement of where the students are going. There's also, we had to reconfigure the state had us change some of the numbers, so like you'll not see anything here,
okay, yeah.
But they want different account codes because of how they're pulling the information, so there's some of that going on at the same time.
So it kind of matches up to the 9.5% overall.
Yeah, you had 106 planned for FY25 students, and I show 87 for FY26.
So that's almost 19 less students.
It is, it is.
And if it's a 5% increase, average of 5% increase, that doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
What I can say is potentially the 106 you budgeted for might not have panned out. That was what I was looking at for Lori's estimates for 25, and that's where I started. But 87 is what I have here based on what I just gave you for 2 million.
How many more students? You said for next year?
How many students for?
Oh, for secondary.
Yeah, this is the 87 right here, shows the total that I budgeted for.
Tuition to public.
There's 61 Dover residents and 26 Wardsboro residents.
Right.
You know, if you guys look, it's a second to last page is what we're talking about for tuition if you can't find it. And it's under, it says secondary on the side and it says direct instruction.
Of course, we don't have actuals for 25.
Yeah, 55,
actuals.
61,
Well, actuals are right
62,
there.
64,
I got actuals.
68.
Well, so that was pulled a little while ago, so it's probably not as accurate.
Actually, I mean, it's not a big jump.
It's not a big jump.
But there are more, you're estimating more students in secondary school than last year.
I am estimating less.
No, less, 19
students.
less students.
Less, yeah,
Less.
we're increasing.
Right.
Yes.
Right, that's what I'm saying is, so it's a 15, well, and it's hard because public LEAs is down 46.2%. So there's less
some of the
students.
codes have changed, and so there's a little bit of that changing when you're looking at numbers based on what was budgeted last year.
Yeah, but it's 9.4 altogether. If you look at the year over year on your direct instruction, you went from 2,141,000 to 2,003,000, which is a $200,000 increase. So you know, on a $2 million budget, it's roughly 10%, so 9.4, so that makes sense.
And
The
I had
actual
to,
is
I had to
1.2 million.
guesstimate on what the overall average tuition is gonna be based on
Right.
what I've been seeing come in.
Yeah.
And there have been some
Well, I thought
significant
everybody had to set their tuition, because we had to set that at our last meeting, so.
Yes, and I just got a draft, but there was a glitch in the system, so they're not announcing it yet. They're asking people to go back and double check the numbers.
So just tuition is that one item that we never know. And if you look, if we were to look at, our budget, if we look at a current budget sheet, usually, you know, we're showing up $187,000 in general fund, you know, fund balance. And usually I bet you 100 of that's gonna be secondary, because we always count on X number of students, we never seem to get them.
Yeah.
So we budget, so this year we budgeted maybe for 87 and 20, 105 or 6, but we may only have, you know, we may only have had 95. So we show you know, a fund balance. If we go the other way though, and we artificially go lower with our students, or, you know, cut a few, we're okay until we have COVID, you know, 25 or 26, and then we have, you know, 30 new students at, you know, $20,000 each. We're over $500,000 off. But then we know we have a real number the following year, so it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other. Put the camera on Dwight for a minute.
Why does Dwight have the hot seat?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the actuals are 150,000 less than budgeted for that.
Yeah, so I
secondary.
mean, if you look at that, we're looking at an operational surplus of 187 at 20.
150 of it right there.
At 20, well, at 20 kids, 20 less students.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, 9 less students at $20,000 is $180,000.
Yeah.
That whole surplus could be a lot of that surplus could be secondary tuition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because, you know, all the other line items we're pretty well set on, because we know salaries, we're given a salary number for X number of staff. We have to contract, so even if we lost half the students in the building, we still have to have the staff, because we contracted and we can't adjust that. So we're, you know, those numbers are usually pretty easy. So the only thing that we tend to see a lot of fluctuation is sometimes in fuel, because, you know, if fuel oil takes a real dive, you know, the building we use, I forget, it was like $25,000, $30,000 worth of fuel. I mean, we've had years where we've had like 15, we budget 30, we only spent 15.
So what I can tell you right now is all the budgeted for tuition.
Yep.
You're showing a balance of surplus of 77.5 left in tuition right now for this year.
Okay,
So that should, unless somebody comes out of the woodwork, because we've encumbered everything that we've gotten bills for.
But
So
we tend to lose students after the winter, because students that all of a sudden live in the area to go to one of the ski programs then isn't in the area anymore. So we'll be close. So it's 80,000. So roughly half of a little less than half of the
yes.
projected surplus.
Yep.
And what's the other big numbers? Where are we showing a lot of the surplus?
Well, your surplus is in the position that was unfilled.
Yeah.
So you've got 30,000 from the nurse in Wardsboro. You've got another 35. So that's a chunk
70,
of
so
change.
there's 140, so
Yeah.
you've got 40 somewhere else.
Yeah.
40, 50.
I think certainly it's not in capital and not in building expenses.
Well, that's a whole separate fund.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just your operational expenses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions on the budget from the board? Go ahead.
What's HSA and HRA? Is that part of the health insurance?
Yeah, so the HSA is the savings, health savings, and HRA
It's
is,
reimbursement?
well, that's the HRA goes with the health plans in which teachers get X amount or staff gets X amount of dollars towards their deductible. And it doesn't go into, the savings goes into, they get to keep, and anything that's unused goes into their own retirement. Health savings does that. It's savings, you can use it on health, rolls over and goes into their retirement. The HRA is towards the deductible, and if it was unspent, it would roll back into the supervisory, the school district.
Just only use if they use the deductible?
Yeah.
Okay. Did they have a chance to do the review of the health insurance amounts for this year?
It's definitely, it's 11.9. There's a couple that are 11.5 depending on the plan that's chosen, but is that what you're meaning, is what this?
Well, I wanted to know
written in
what
stone?
the percentage of the increase was of this year's
Remember, he
increase.
asked the question.
Oh,
last-
Yeah.
yes, I'm sorry. I can do that. Give me a second.
No, you don't have to
I'm
do it right now.
sorry.
We can.
But
Yeah, more
again,
discussion.
that was something that we don't have any control over. The state sets the plans and the state
Right.
negotiates
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, just it would be good to know
Yes,
what
of
percentage
course.
of the
Mhm.
increase is caused from results from health insurance, and also what the increase is over the last few years, each year.
Yes,
how
I
that's
will
kind
do a
of broken
graph
out.
on that one.
Great, thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You all set, sir?
Think so?
Eli?
Yes.
Nothing? Mikey?
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Laura, I don't know if you saw the budget. Is Laura still there?
Yeah, I have a question, Rich.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Did I hear correctly? $650,000 increase?
Yes.
Overall, yeah.
Okay. And how much of that is health insurance?
Well, we don't have an exact number.
I'm sorry, I did not get that put together, so
Okay.
I will do that for the next meeting on Monday.
Okay. And Richard, what is your objective this evening for the board with the budget?
Just to look at it and ask any questions, digest it, and then if we have any questions between now and our next meeting, send it to me and I will get it to Heidi, and then we'll try to decide where we're at.
Okay. So are we looking for so I guess I would say that I do not support raising our budget 650,000, so I will be looking for advice from the administration on how to cut that significantly. And I have ideas, but I think I would love to hear if the administration has any ideas. So I think we have to be looking to cut that by at least half, if not more.
I do have one question that I wondered about the board. I mean, currently you put 150,000 into your capital fund, and I wondered if that was one place you wanted to cut it. I don't know if anybody wants to
So
speak to that.
that's not part of the operational budget. That's a whole different number.
Well, it's a transfer from the operational budget into capital.
No, we don't transfer from there. We transfer from, we've taken it from our surplus.
If you look at the
This year we
bottom
did
line-
because of for the roof, but most of the time, so
So
we
if you
vote,
look at,
we vote an operational budget, okay, which has nothing to do with the capital, so, right? And then we vote a separate article, we vote what we want to fund our reserves with,
okay.
okay?
The
So-
last line of the budget shows a history of some transfers, so that's my mistake from looking at the past.
So I think that is, yeah, I don't think that's.
Okay, okay. So that'll change your bottom line. It will, let me take it out. That's my mistake, and that reduces it to a $502,000 increase, 7.3%.
So-
Where's the line?
If we
Very
raise,
last line.
if we raise the money in taxes,
Oh, I see. Okay.
but we raise it for the reserve.
Okay,
Okay, we don't transfer it out. Now, what happens is there's times when we do expenditures from the operational budget to that's something that should have been in the reserve and back and forth, but shouldn't show up as.
so some of the school districts put money aside, and I just assumed you were like one of those where
No.
Greg has written out a long-term plan and certain amount goes into the capital
We have a
fund.
whole separate reserve budget. We
Yeah,
don't-
no, yeah, okay.
So take that 150 out.
Okay, so you're down to 502,000 with a 7.3% increase.
Good job. Look how quick you did.
Yep.
Wow, see,
Yep.
it's easy.
That's half of what Laura asked for right there.
Hey, Laura, how's that?
Yeah, great. Still looking to reduce that by half. And
Half again?
yeah, well, 650 to 500, and I said at least by half. So, and then I think I just would like to ask for some clarification. I understand, I think you were just clarifying how things are in the budget, but I heard Heidi talking about how some boards have long-term capital plans and, you know, and raise money for that. And we are one of those boards. Right.
Okay, it's not just a transfer, or you're transferring at
Well,
town meeting.
What I'm asking for, Heidi, is for the general public's sake, Richard, I know you were just correcting something with the budget there. Just to be clear, we do long-term capital. Can you just clarify what we do?
Yes,
here,
but
please?
we don't take it out of operational.
That's fine. Just,
Yeah.
but clarify what we do, please.
Right. We put it in as a separate article. That's what I said.
That has a long-term capital plan that Greg helps us develop.
And I do have
We
that.
use. Yes.
And
Thank you.
we don't discuss capital plans. First thing we do is we look at the operational budget because that directly affects the students. And to do a student-centered budget, that's what we need to concentrate on first.
Understood. But when we're having these discussions, you know, we're not talking about the capital budget. That's a separately important thing. But just as we're saying that, making sure that we're not getting mistaken information out there. So we are a board that has a long-term capital plan. That's not what we're talking about right now.
Thank you, Laura.
So I just did some back of the envelope math. And you know, because of changes in the plans, our health insurance doesn't look like it's a huge driver in the budget. When you look at what's gone up and what's gone down, it's not that far off because a lot of things went down. But you'll get us a real number.
Yes, I will.
Okay, Laura, you good?
I mean, I guess I am, Rich, but maybe I'm not. You know, what I want to say is, I want to get this complete thought out there, Rich. We have a process. We ask for an educationally sound budget, which I want. I want the advice of our administrators, but it is also our job to recommend a budget to our towns and our district. And I would like to say clearly to my fellow board members that in our process, which I think works, I really think we have to be driving to, I think we have to be driving. I guess I would say level fund, but you know, I said reduce by half, but we have to think about how we're doing things, and we have to think about ways that we can reduce our budget and improve experience for kids. And I think we can do that in our district and our budget. So I will just say to my fellow board members, my objective is to really see us making pretty significant cuts. And I'm looking for advice from the administration on how to achieve those. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Laura, I'm wondering if you want to hear from Tracy. We did talk about some additional parts that she would be willing to cut. Is this the appropriate time to talk about that?
No, I don't.
Can I just answer her?
Well,
So,
hang on a second.
Wait, Rich?
No, hang on a second, Laura. If there's something that's in the budget that you don't need in the budget, then why is it in there? I guess that's my question. Okay.
okay, well, I can answer it if you
Okay,
let
yeah.
me.
No.
So what I can say, Laura, is that I, along with Francesca, I think I can speak for her too. We did take a pretty good look at the budget, and there are things that we can trim back on while still keeping the experience for students as unimpacted as we can, but there are things that we can scale back on. There are things that we can reduce, but you know, the impact to students would be minimal, but there are still things that we can take out. But what you all asked for from Francesca and I was like, what is it that you need? Like, we would love to keep it all, but also we understand the implications for taxpayers. So we did take a deeper dive, and if you wanted, there are things that we can trim back on.
So that is great. Thank you, Tracy. I would also like to say we have always, since I've been on this board and when I was on the board previously, the Dover School Board, it has always been an objective of ours to provide an excellent education to our students. And so I do not want to reduce our students' educational experience at all. So,
Glad to hear.
but I do want us to seriously and dramatically cut our budget. And I think we can do that.
You all set, Laura?
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
So I guess my feeling's always been is we've asked for what you need to run the school to make sure our kids are taken care of. So is this the budget you presented to us? Is this the budget that you and Francesca need to take care of our students and do?
That is what you asked for at the last meeting. So with the advice from Bob and from Heidi, that's what we gave you. But we also took a really fine tooth comb to it. And yes, there are places where we can trim back if we need to.
Okay, is it affecting programs?
No.
Okay,
I mean, we can do things that, I mean, yeah, I guess that's in the eye of the beholder.
Okay, but we're not educators and we're not trying to run a school. Been there, done that, didn't enjoy it very much. So as our educational leaders, you and Francesca, we've asked you to tell us, you know, what you need for a budget to run the school and provide for our students. So I guess I'm a little confused. I'm not sure what you mean by.
Well, because
so
I guess I think we're looking at it being fiscally responsible, understanding that taxes could go up. I mean they're going to go up in my town too. So I would love it for everything to be able to stay the same. But I also understand the tax implication on the.
Okay, but we don't worry. So we have.
But you asked me for a whole answer, so I'm trying to give you a whole answer. So yes, there are places that we can trim the budget back that would not impact students. But what you asked for at the last meeting was for us to come in with pie in the sky, I think were your words.
Did I say that?
I don't remember the exact wording.
I thought we asked for the budget, and I thought I asked Heidi to go and see what the administrators wanted in the buildings.
Yeah.
And what they needed to educate our kids, because Tracy, we always worry about the taxes after the fact. The first thing we ask for is what educators need to do the buildings, and if this is what you need, then when you say you can trim things, then I think that's what I.
Well, I'm going to defer to Bob on this one then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe we should. I mean, I think this is good news. And
Bob.
thank you,
Well, no, hang on a second.
Hold on. I think it's obviously this is great because you're giving us something that's, that meets our needs. But if you're also telling us that there are places we can cut, I think the board should direct them to do so. I mean, because last year we had a 4.7% increase. Now we're looking at a 9.5. Just like Laura, I feel more comfortable we were still at that 4.7 or in that neighborhood as well. That's why I asked about the health insurance, because if that makes up, the 2.3% or whatever it is, then we're looking at 2%, which is more in line with inflation. So I think that's palatable for people to vote on. So I think maybe we should direct redirect the administrators to come up with maybe a specific number that makes us happy as well. It still meets the needs of the students.
I think that the answer is the cuts that we found were easy cuts that didn't impact much of the student experience. I think your principals have looked hard at cuts that have some impact that they rather not cut, but as fiscally trying to be responsible, are willing to make those hard decisions. And it's definitely not been easy.
No.
No, it's definitely.
I think
we understand
there's
that.
there's no fluff in these budgets. There's no fluff. I think everybody knows that. And honestly, to cut $500,000 or $600,000, I don't know how you're going to do that.
No, it doesn't cut
I
programs.
could make recommendations pretty easily on
Okay.
how to do that.
I'm not sure even for the principals and myself to be able to cut $500,000 or $600,000. So it might come from board directives. But both your principals, when we sat and talked, are trying to be really fiscally responsible, but yet still trying to give the students the best educational experience to continue. I mean, I'm sure that Francesca would love to have the opportunity to talk about the position she'd like added for Wardsboro as to why she thinks it's so badly needed. You know, those were the kinds of things we talked about, and how to have that position but still shave other places to be responsible. It's hard.
Okay, so again, and so this budget here that
It's-
presents to us is the ones that our administration would like to see. So I think we should work with this. I think we should leave this alone for now. I think, Laura, if you've got lots of places, then please send us an email and tell us what you thought, and then ask the rest of the board. I think we said that, look at this, look at the numbers, take some time to digest it. This is not an extravagant budget. They're not asking us for the moon right now. They're just asking, this is what they would like to have to keep the programming and keep our students where we're at. And I think that's always been our first step. We look at this, and then if we have some specific questions, I think next week we'll talk about the position that she wants to add. And if the board wants to see 500,000 cut, then we can say, we can tell you then, and we'll send you back to the drawing board. But if this is the budget that our administrators want to run an educationally sound program, I think this is where we need to start.
Okay, so you don't want me to make any changes for next week?
No.
Get more answers for the questions on insurance?
Right.
Okay.
We've got questions on the insurance.
Mhm.
I think the board members can look through. Laura has some thoughts, so she's gonna send them to us.
Okay.
And then we'll present
Sure.
them next week, and we'll give you a chance to kind of look and see what that means. If the administrators in the buildings have some thoughts that they want to say, again, if they have some stuff that they think they can reduce, and let them put that together for us. And I think we can, next time we meet, we'll go through that. I think we need to, first off, we've never looked at taxes or rates or anything. We've looked at what has been requested by our administrators, and we try to support our administrators the best we can. Laura's feeling that a 9% increase is steep. Dwight says he'd like to see, what some of those drivers are. We know one of the drivers is a tuition. The tuition out of a $500,000 increase, again, how much was tuition?
It increased by 200,000,
Right.
almost 300,000.
So almost half of that increase is tuition.
Yep.
Trace, you gonna cut tuition for me?
Well, I have some ideas.
Well, I mean, I can't cut tuition. We can't not pay money. We can't tell the schools we're not paying you. We can't tell kids they can't go to school. So, I mean, I can't change that. So, yeah. So I think, Laura, make sure you just send me something on what your thoughts
I'd
are.
just like to get a little more clarification on that.
On which one?
So, Richard,
Secondary students.
Sure, I'll
Hang on a second.
Sorry, Rich, to
No.
talk. There's a secondary just seems so high to me, but lowering the number of students, but then the budget went up. Just
No, it's the number of students. If we get more students, then what do we do? Then
no, we're planning
just-
on less than last year, right?
We
Right.
are planning on
No,
this, but just
19
higher
less
amounts,
students.
yeah.
But yet the
And
budget
she-
went up, so.
Right, because the tuition goes
Not
up.
that much, there's no way.
Okay, so let's.
But more info would be good.
She also, I think, didn't you give us that? I think I gave mine to somebody.
The tuition,
Yeah.
the breakdown.
Yeah, I'll grab it from you
Okay.
later.
Maybe I'm wrong, but
but
maybe more
it-
clarification.
Sure, I'll do that too.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is some of these are guesses, and I mean, we used to change tuition, we would find out 5 students left town, so we would always recommend that. And if we do have some money in reserves, so we could say, we could go out on a limb and lower that number, but again, that's kind of not a number we have a lot of control over. The voters tell us what they want to pay for the tuition rate.
Yeah.
And we just, to be honest, so again, if you take that off of there, the increase is just what Laura asked for.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, if you could just review the numbers, because compare this year's numbers to next year's numbers.
Yep.
You're looking, I mean, we had that really nice chart we did last year for the report, so let's do that.
Okay.
Laura, go ahead.
Rich?
Yeah, it's your turn.
So I would like clarification on how you want me to send that information. And before you tell me that, I would like to also be really clear that I really appreciate the work that Bob and Heidi and Tracy oh my God,
Francesca?
Francesca have done. They have done what we asked. They have done what we expect, and I want to thank them for doing that. That was the right thing for them to do, and I still feel very strongly about what I've said. It has nothing, but I think everyone is doing their jobs and doing the right thing. I just think we're going to have to really dig in here. How would you like me to communicate that information, Richard, and to whom?
Send me an email, because I'm going to ask everybody to send me an email by Thursday at lunchtime. And then I will put it all together so Heidi's not getting bombarded, and then I'll get it to Heidi.
Okay, and so all of the suggestions are going to go to Heidi, and then Heidi will come back with.
Well, yeah, the individual board members will send it to me, and I'll put it together, because some of you may ask the same question, and we'll just have one nice email, and I'll send that
Thanks for doing that. Thank
to
you for
Heidi,
doing that, Rich.
and then we'll ask Heidi to get us some answers.
Great. Okay. Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah, Bob, go ahead.
So if board members are sending ideas on reductions to you to forward on to Heidi, do you want her to, are you asking her to present a budget with those?
I don't think it's ideas for reductions. It's questions when they're questioning a section of the budget. Okay, we haven't decided. I don't believe we're making reductions yet, Bob. I think we want to.
That's why I'm asking, because that's how it started with Laura saying she had some ideas.
It's right. I agree
Well,
with
I
Bob's
think-
questions. Bob sending ideas on things I think we could reduce.
Oh,
what
I
is-
thought you were sending questions on items, why they're at high. That's kind of how I thought it. Okay, so hang on a second, Laura. So what do you all want to do? We've always done it this way, for years, and it doesn't mean we have to keep doing it. We've always asked for this budget. We've always looked at it, we reviewed it, we decided, we asked questions about it. And then once we get that settled in, then we go back and we look at the reserve budgets and how we want to fund them, any articles we want to do, and then we look at the impact on the taxes, okay? Laura, I think, is making a suggestion that we make a reduction in the budget, okay? I don't know if I understand the budget enough now that we may go back and find that it should be 12% increase. Unless you want to do away with programs. I don't know. So how do we want to do this? Do we want to ask questions on the budget in the next meeting? Because one of the things we said is we're meeting a week out. I was hoping the West River budget was going to be done for Heidi, but it isn't, unfortunately. But we still have 5 or 6 weeks before we actually have to lock down a budget. So we don't have to do it right off. But do we want to I think Laura's looking to say, let's try to make reductions in the budget, significant reductions of $300,000 to $500,000. Okay? Do we want to go that route, or do we want to just have Heidi and the administration show us where their budgets are, why they've asked for these numbers? if we have any questions on the numbers, we do have some questions on tuition, so,
Can I make a suggestion?
well, I need to know where the board's going first.
But it was gonna help with that answer.
Okay,
My suggestion is that any reductions that people come to me about, Laura, board members, and the principals, I make a narrative with how much each of those would be saving, and then share it with the board ahead of time.
I don't know if the board wants to do that, so let's see what the board
Okay.
wants to do
Okay, I
first.
just wanted to offer
So we
that.
have one person right now on TV who wants to see reductions, okay? I haven't heard that from the board. I've heard somebody likes to know about the insurance. Not everybody's had a lot of time to digest this, okay? What do you all want to do as a board? It doesn't matter what I want to do, it's what the board wants to do. So what do you all want to do? Do you think you want to ask that, what would it look like if we cut 10% out of the budget? Do you want to have her just, I mean, I don't know. What do you all want to do? So go ahead, Doug.
I know what I'd like to do. I think we have 5 weeks, you said, this is, or 4 weeks, let's call it a month. So I think I'd like to do it in steps, like you're suggesting, Rich. First step would be to just have any specific questions about this budget. I have a couple questions that I'd like to have answered so we can get some clarification on that. I think if we all do that question first, and then the next step, they've already indicated to us they know some ideas of things that can be cut. I think the next step would be to decide how much we'd like the budget, if any, to be cut. And if we do know that, we'd say, I think a more palatable budget would be whatever number that is. And in that case, let the administrators do their job, cut in the areas that they know are least impactful on the budget, and bring that to us. That's how I'd like to see it.
Okay. Eli, what do you think?
I'd like to hear suggestions. I don't think that just because they're suggestions, they have to be taken, but if she's got ideas, I'd like to hear them.
Laura.
Yeah, or anybody else for that matter.
So it's almost two-part.
Yeah.
It's people that have questions on line items, and also if people see things that they'd like to maybe ask about, we would do that too. So it would
For
be a
sure.
two-part, okay.
Yeah. And also I'd like to see what, the principals, the administration thinks.
Okay.
Just look at all the options, is what I'm saying.
Yep.
Look at the options before I even put any input on cutting. If we do decide to, want to lower the budget, which as a taxpayer, mine went up incredible amounts. So I would love to see it lowered, but I will not tell them what to do. I'd love to see you guys make all the calls first and maybe hit the percentage we want to see before we put our input, because to put the shoe on the other foot, it's like you telling me what kind of stone to use and some kind of drainage. We're gonna stay in our own lane. You guys do you. But I would like to see them down a little bit, just selfishly as a taxpayer. And one more quick question. What is a guidance service? What falls under that?
What was it?
Guidance service?
Guidance counselor?
Under what heading?
What's the number? 2 something?
2120. I don't know what that is. Is that
Page 4, guidance services. So that would be
The guidance counselor?
right up, like over here. So 2 pages.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Guidance
that's that
counselor.
whole section of that's
Up
all
above.
these guidance services.
Yeah,
okay?
I just didn't know what
So
fell
that's the
under.
guidance counselor in the building. So the salary, the salary, the health insurance, all the benefits,
So
childcare.
each school has a
So-
full-time guidance
Right.
counselor.
So that's the total, 2120, the total expenditures of all those line items is 199,000, it's up 7.3%.
Gotcha.
Yeah, each building has a full-time person. We did that back right after COVID because our administrators were telling us that there was a lot of needs in the buildings and a lot of pulls. So it used to be, I think we had a half-time, I don't know, do you remember before you were here?
Guidance.
Yeah, it
There's
was
guidance counselor, when I was a teacher here, it was 3 days a week.
3 days, so it was like a 0.6. So we went up to a 1.0 after COVID, and then I think in Wardsboro,
We shared a guidance counselor for a little while, and then and then during COVID, each
went to-
building got.
Yeah, I just we doubled
I
the.
just want to make a point that had nothing to do with cutting budget. That was a completely different question. I just didn't know.
So now I forgot. Go ahead.
So I think it's really important that we keep the focus on what the students need to be successful. I think that's been one of the guiding principles, and so I want everybody to think about that as they're asking people to take another look, and as like if Tracy and Francesca do another look, just be super mindful as you're telling us that you can save money, that you're not doing it at the expense of the education that the children are getting. Like that's super important to me. So just be super mindful of that. And as we want to be mindful, we want to do right by our taxpayers, but I also want our kids to have the best education that they possibly can, as long as we can provide them with a good education. We're in some really tricky times where certain futures are super uncertain for everything, and it's terrifying as a parent. So I just want to do as right by the kids as we possibly can for as long as we can. Yep.
Laura? She's still up there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have seen a significant increased spending through COVID. We have seen significant decreases in student enrollment, and we have seen increases in a lot of administration and other personnel costs. And, I think we just have to ask ourselves if we are providing the best possible education for this group of kids that we can, the way that we are doing it now. And I don't think that we are. I think we're trying to, and I think what we're trying to do is very expensive. And I think we could do a better job for less money if we're willing to really look at what's best for the kids and how we do things. And, we may also have our hand forced in this regard. And, I appreciate the stress that everyone is operating under, but, I don't really want to dance around this too much. I think the changes that would be necessary in order to make those kind of cuts are pretty obvious. It's people. And if we're cutting in the building, we need to be making recommendations to cut outside of the building as well. So, and that is the extra money that we pay to the private schools that we don't have to. So that's where I would find the savings in people and the extra money we pay that we don't have to.
Okay, I just want to say that we've never yet based a budget on taxes at this stage. We've always looked at the taxes and the tax rate further down the pike, because if we're going to just focus on a tax rate, then or tax increase or tax decrease, then I don't think we're doing our job looking out for the students in that.
Who's talking about that, Rich? Who is talking about tax increase or decrease?
Well, you guys are, because you're asking to cut the budget $300,000 because you don't want to see an increase.
That's not what I said. That is not what I said, Richard.
So
I am not talking about taxes.
Okay. Well, then, I mean, 9% increase in the education budget is, I don't know, it seems like we're kind of going about it backwards. So I guess what I'm taking away from all this then, if everybody's done, is first thing is we need to, if you have any questions on the budget, like even question like what is, I forget what you asked. Yeah. I think suggestions, I guess, and recommendations would be the second thing. And, I'm kind of confused. I mean, are we just saying cut 300,000 out of the budget? Are we saying cut 500? I mean, I guess I'm really kind of lost there. Or are we just saying can you reduce the budget at all? Are we giving them a target? Are we just saying reduce it? You know, I guess I'm not sure what we were trying to get towards. So, you guys tell me. We gotta give them some instruction. Go ahead.
So I think what I heard the board say is I did not hear the majority of people supporting my position. I think what I heard the board say is they would like the administrators to go and see what they can cut without reducing programs and come back to us with that and to double check some of the numbers.
Is the board shaking their head okay?
Yeah, I think that's
Okay, so
solid step.
what we're asking is for clarification, check our numbers, and if there is anything that's obvious that can be changed, then change it. So I got one quick question. You kind of alluded towards doing some changes with the food service.
Yes.
I mean, is that's not really going to affect students' learning as long as they're getting fed. So if there is some, well, no, Tracy, you're making
Well, I mean,
a
you can't, like, you have to look at the child as a whole child. Like, if you're right, as long as we're providing them the nourishment that they need, then yes, it's not affecting them. But like,
well, I guess we're
nourishment does affect them.
No, I'm not saying. What I'm saying is if we can still nourish them. I'm not saying take food away, but I'm saying if we can do food differently, then is that something we should consider? And if the students in Wardsboro are getting a meal served somehow, and we can serve them the same meal to the students in Dover and have the same, and have.
I think we talked about that with Jake, and our building is too far away. We wouldn't be able to do something like that. The savings we can make is with the overseeing of the ordering.
Well, and without, again, I didn't want to get into specifics, but maybe that's something that you guys can look at.
Sure.
Okay, so you guys are gonna look at, so the two things we're gonna do is all the board members, if you have any questions on anything in the budget by Thursday at noon, you're gonna get that back to me. Meredith, I hope you're caught up with us.
Bob has his hand up too.
Oh.
My eyes aren't.
Okay, Bob, hang on one second, I'm sorry. I promised you it wouldn't be a late night. So we're gonna, any questions or clarifications on the budget? And if you see anything that you think you would like to, make a suggestion on, we'll do that as kind of a separate group. So we'll have the clarification questions and we'll have the suggestions on changes to the budget. Okay, because I mean, sometimes changes maybe we need something more, we want to see something added. Bob, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I was just going to offer my 2 cents on all this. I think that, I think maybe some of the confusion came with my conversations with the principals and with Heidi because of the context of what's happening in the state and what's happening even in our region. That I suggested to the principals that they have some ideas in the event that there was a request for reductions, but that they build a budget with Heidi now, and this is what they presented to, that they felt would serve the students that were values the best. So that is what you guys asked for. That is what they have presented. The reductions and the potential cuts that they have in mind or that they can think about are ones that would try to impact students the least. But I think there's always going to be an impact to kids in one way or another, because as Heidi pointed out, there isn't any fluff. So yeah, I think in fairness to them, the clearer that you guys can be at the next meeting, once you know what you're looking at and once you have an idea of what you think is reasonable for a budget to have, an expenditure budget to have, and again, not getting into the tax stuff, as you said, I think the most clarity you can give them, the best, so that they can move forward and how to go from there as far as what targets they're hitting, if any. Then the only thing I want to say about Heidi and the timeline is, as you mentioned, Rich, West River is still open. They have a special meeting tomorrow. They have to, in the next 2 weeks or so, have to get their budget adopted. The SU budget has been reopened by the SU board last week. Heidi's got that in the hopper as well, with a meeting with them this week. And so it's a pretty busy next week or so for her as far as all these different versions. So anything that you guys can do to minimize the workload for her as far as answering questions. Maybe those questions could be sent to the principals and myself instead, as she focuses on another work in the SU. So that was my request. Just wanted to put out that hopefully clarification.
Yeah, so then, folks, why don't you send it to me by noon, and then I'll send it to Bob. I'll bring it over, get it to Bob on Thursday. You got it, Bob? Okay. I just want to clarify one more thing. I mean, we're all, the sky is falling, according to Chicken Little, and there are going to be some challenges. But again, I'll go back to several years ago, and I know it's a little different, but we were looking at tax rates doubling in town and budgets going, and all sorts of craziness in January and February when everybody's putting the budgets together, and we didn't change our budget much, and at the when it was all said and done, it was not a huge change. We also have some fund balance that we can play with. We can, to make sure that we don't fall off a ledge. We don't like to spend it. Things, as Laura was stating, one of the things I was going to have Laura do in a minute is just talk about, the governor and the education department's changes. So again, it's a long road, and we don't have to decide tonight. We don't, but again, I think we really do need to give some direction eventually. Especially if you're going to look to, try to reduce a budget by $500,000 or $600,000. So, cool. Is everybody good? You can move on. Everybody clear as mud on what we're doing? You guys all clear over there? No, Randy, you're not very clear.
I'll come to other meetings and maybe speak up.
Cool.
Obviously, knowing that I've been in the budget, the budget process, and I'll just say, since you just asked me, that I think that you really do need to trust your administrators, like you said, and you ask them to do a specific thing. And I would be interested in seeing what Laura's suggestions are cutting that, as well. And where are those cuts? As you and I both know, for doing budgets in our previous careers, that we don't put in stuff we don't need. This is what we need to do our job for the town. And, when we do
our
the
job for the
budget,
kids.
we try very hard. And I know you guys do that the same thing. So I'll probably be showing up, and I'm interested to see where some of these cuts are and where they want to go.
I mean, one of my things too that, back before I was on the board, there was, it looked like there was going to be a surplus. So the school had a big ice cream social, and, they just kind of spent all the money, and we've been really good about not spending money that we don't have to. So just because, it looks like there's going to be $180,000, we're not just spending it to spend it. We're reserving it to use it in the future. So we've been really good. But again, Laura's going to speak here in a minute. There's some pretty radical changes coming down the pike. There's some radical changes federally. If they do away with the Department of Ed, some people are running around like that's going to be the end of the world. But the feds mandate a whole bunch of stuff and don't give us any money to do it. And if we get the same amount of money and less headaches from the feds, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. So a lot of changes. Heidi, you can go. I think we're all. Oh, you want to just do the? He wants to do the
pay warrants?
Yeah, or you don't care about that.
I don't care, but I'd love to hear what Laura says, so I think I'll just hang out and stay.
Okay. So, Bob, you're all set too. Greg, were you here just for what you've done, or did you have something else?
No, I was just here to see how the budget conversation went. I will say, Rich, at a point, will we have a conversation about capital stuff? I just at one point, remember in November, we had talked about trying to push the roof forward sooner than later to get the bid done, but I'm just not sure where we're at. You want me to hold off on all that for
No,
at this point?
capital, because that's out of a different fund too. But let's get the operational done. I know kids can't learn if they have buckets on their heads like some other buildings, but it's let's get the operational kind of settled in first.
No problem.
And maybe our Electric Avenue bus, so Dwight will feel better.
I will feel better.
I will do my best. Dwight's looking for another ride.
Yeah. Cool. So Laura, can you talk a little bit about the governor or the ed department's proposal? And I guess we hear a budget tomorrow or budget address. It's gonna give us some ideas and.
Sure. Yep, sure.
Stop now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, it looks like we see your picture now, so it looks like you may stop.
That stopped, and I know this is a really big discussion, and Rich, I apologize for not being there in person. There's a lot that's going on, so I felt like I needed to be at the State House, which is where I am, so that I can go to work right after this meeting. So I apologize for participating virtually, but had to do it. So what is happening? The governor gave his, or the Secretary of Education, Zoe Saunders, gave a broad outline of a very broad reform package from the governor to the House and Senate, all members. It's not something I've seen happen before, kind of historic. And there is a lot of detail that we do not have, but there are big picture pieces so far. One is moving to a foundation formula, and a foundation formula is what Vermont had prior to what we have now. It's what led to the lawsuit with Brigham. And so presumably people are thinking about what would be done differently to avoid the lawsuit that happened with Amanda Brigham. A foundation formula. Right now what happens is we have budget discussions and we say, here's how much money we need. And then the state writes us a check and everybody pays. And if we spend a lot more than everybody else, we pay extra. Our residents pay extra. In a foundation formula, the state says, here's how much money you're getting per pupil this year. And we will also let you spend up to X amount more. This is part of what is not detailed yet, at your local discretion. Presumably, there would be some sort of weighting for different types of students in different types of places. We have weighting now, which, as you know, we all fought hard for because they were not adequate for rural and poor students and English language learners. I'm a little concerned because the proposal that is out doesn't seem to understand how weights are used right now, and they're looking to fix the system. I think the key takeaway is a foundation formula gives the state of Vermont a lever to say less spending. So here's how much you get. So that is one aspect. The other aspect is governance consolidation. Right now, what we've seen are supervisory unions, and I believe they're organized into however, I don't know if Bob's still there, how the superintendents kind of organize themselves into 5 groups throughout the state. So we would be in the Windham and Windsor County district. There would be one board for all of the schools in that district with one central office and one superintendent. And the state of Vermont would decide which schools were closing and which schools were going to be on improvement plans within that district. And there's not much more detail than that right now. I expect that we will get more detail tomorrow with the governor's budget address. There is also a move towards further disempowering the State Board of Education and consolidating power and decision-making and rulemaking with the administration. And that, so that is that. So I think we should anticipate seeing proposals that name schools that will close. I don't know what the legislature is going to do. I can tell you that the feeling in Montpelier is that taxpayers cannot afford the system that we have. And so I think people are open to big change. I am worried about, I hear a lot of talk about we have to fix the funding mechanism. I don't think the funding mechanism is broken. I think the way we deliver education in the state and have disinvested in our buildings and and have lost a lot of students. I think that is where we are seeing costs go through the roof. The funding mechanism works. It's very complicated. It's hard for people to understand and be accountable. What I'm afraid of is that that Montpelier will only move to a foundation formula, which would mean the state of Vermont gets to say, here's how much money you get, and not do an overhaul of the system. If the state of Vermont is going to say, here's how much money you get, I think the state of Vermont needs to have more responsibility about the product that is purchased with that funding. So that's it. I am happy to answer questions. It's very broad strokes. My sense is that it's kind of coming out in drips to allow people to absorb. There may be pieces that the administration has not figured out yet. I mean, last year they said, the legislature has smart people. They can go figure this out. It does seem that there's more of an effort to bring forward comprehensive proposals. We will see. Anything else, Richard, that you think is important to note or add? Your say is through your representatives. So both myself and Senator Hashim, who is on the Education Committee, and Senator Harrison. Our votes on, what happens here will be how you weigh in. And, well, I was going to editorialize, so I'll save it.
Thank you.
That was exactly what I was going to ask too. So.
Yeah, Act 46 is 146. 146 or 46? 46 was definitely bottom up, and this is definitely, this is the same, isn't this pretty close to the plan that French was proposing way back when he first started?
This is a top-down proposal. So it's, and we're in a really tricky spot, guys. The system is under a lot of stress, and things cannot really stay the same. And I'm worried about the leadership that we have at the state level to support. I want to see a bottom up. I'm not sure that everybody on the ground is willing to go through the process. There were people that refused with Act 46, and this funding system that we have right now counts on everyone having, really high level of understanding of how their decisions impact everybody else. And, that we have, so it's really hard to say that we can stay the same.
Mike or Kate? The articles that I've read are pretty vague, and then this afternoon I got a 51-page PowerPoint. It's also pretty vague. So it's not a tremendous amount of info on it. I was just really trying to pay attention to the districts. I guess I don't know what that means, but we're on the line, but we're in the Brat district, I guess.
Well, they're proposing 5.
Yeah, exactly. But that side, not
Yeah.
Bennington side.
No.
Oh, yeah, we're right on the hood. But yeah, I'm eager to see what the heck they got to offer. But the clarification in the PowerPoint was just as boring as the article. It gave you no more. So
We did send that out to everybody, right, Bob?
Yeah.
the PowerPoint thing?
Yeah. Well, there's a PowerPoint, there was a letter, and then there's a 1-page thing, which was really 2 pages, front and back. You have any question?
So I guess, Laura, one of the things I noted that you said was that they were kind of dribbling information our way. So do you anticipate a lot more coming, and that like they're kind of desensitizing us like in information in small amounts, like, oh, we're going to give you this, and then you're going to have a reaction, but then you're going to like sit with it and be okay, and then we're going to tell you something a little bit more bad, and a little bit more bad. Like that, I don't like that part. Like, so why are they not just releasing more information, and giving the full picture?
Yeah. So I should not cast aspersions. I am wondering if that's what they're doing, Kate. So, and I think they have said that they're going to be coming, the administration, I don't want to say they. Phil Scott's administration, which is the education is run by Zoe Saunders, Secretary Zoe Saunders, has said that they are going to be providing additional information tomorrow. I have heard that there may be even more information coming next week. And so I am guessing, I don't have the reason why that is, but I am guessing why that is. So it's only a guess.
So are we just rearranging chairs on the Titanic at this point in the game? Like,
That's what Act 60 was.
okay.
Yeah, we did that already.
Well, this proposal, so there's no detail here, right? So, and the details really, really matter. But if we consolidate, if we get rid of all of the central offices and we move all the business functions into one, and the state says this school, that school, this school, this school are closing, this school, that school, this school, that school is going into an improvement plan. Everybody's going to get career education this way. And here's the funding that each one of those 5 districts is getting per pupil. That's what it looks like to me. And the State Board of Ed is going to have less say about the rules of the road, and the administration is going to have more. So I mean, I think, yeah, the governance, some consolidation in governance, I don't know if that's a bad thing. Some consolidation in buildings, I don't know that that's a bad thing either. I'd like to see some of that done. Let me hear from you in a way that looks at our state and doesn't create giant holes where there's no schools, which I worry about.
And that's where I was kind of going with that too, is I think the education committee needs to be super mindful that like on paper, a lot of things can look wonderful, but until you put a 4-year-old in a car and you try to get that 4-year-old to school in a timely fashion and hold down a full-time job, like they need to like think about those elements of how hard it is to be a Vermonter sometimes, and they need to keep those elements in play, because 4-year-olds can't ride a bus. So how are you getting that kid to school? Are you making that kid go 30 minutes, 40 minutes? What's reasonable for a parent to do? And how is that parent? And then are you going to start providing more after school care so the parent can hold down a full-time job? What does this look like? How does that play out? They've got to think about those parts too.
Yeah, and this is the governor's proposal right now. The education committees have not weighed in. I would also add the House Education Committee has Representative Emily Long from Newfane is on it, on the House Education Committee. And Representative Rob Hunter, who is a new representative, I think a teacher from Burton in Manchester, is also on the Education Committee.
You know, the thing is, it's all the same stuff we've argued, you know, like when they draw their little lines on the map, they go like this, the map is flat, and they go, oh, look, Wardsboro, Newfane, Townsend, Jamaica, and Wyndham are all within 20 minutes of each other. Hey, we could just have one school. And, you know, we argued that, you know, how many times have you seen trucks slide backwards down the hill kind to get up to Wyndham? And you were going to throw a bunch of 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds on a school bus and send them up there. And I go back to Randy Capitani's thing when we were forming this district, you know, connected by dirt roads was what he wanted to call it instead of river valleys. Because although our towns border each other, there's no paved road to get you from one to the other without going, you know, taking your life in your hands, going over, you know, the hill in Wardsboro and Stratton to get up to the top, you know. So it's just confusing to me how they, you know, they compare it. And I remember Peter Shumlin saying, you know, there's more students in New York City than there is in all of Vermont. So why do we have all these schools? We just need one school and one superintendent. And, you know, I asked him then, why did we have a governor? Because maybe, you know, there's less people in Vermont than there is in New York City too. So maybe we should just have a mayor in New York City, like Bernie or something. But it seems really difficult. And we just keep fighting this. And I think, you know, we can fight it again a little bit, but I think they're going to do to us what they're going to do to us. And so I think it's important to try to just minimize the damage the best we can. And I think Laura said it, you know, we need to go to tell her what we're thinking. But I see nothing good coming from it. I see it just like our Senate districts, you know. We could all vote for somebody in Brattleboro, 20% of the people come out, and we're going to get what Brattleboro and Springfield and you know, or Brattleboro and Windsor. Bob, and then, you know, you guys, if you have any questions or comments.
Yeah, so the VSA meeting last week, we met with the secretary and the deputy secretary, and we had the ability, we were the first ones to be able to ask questions, because when the legislators heard this, they did not get to ask questions. They basically, the report was given and that was the end. So as Laura can tell you, so we were able to ask questions to the first group that were able to do so. And so I just want to share a couple of the questions we asked and a couple of the answers we got, just so you guys have some context as well. One of the big ones is you guys talked about the tuition costs. Choice was one of the questions that was asked about. Zoe expressed that she did not see any substantive changes to how Choice currently is run. So I'm not sure exactly how that means, but it would require some legislative changes to how districts are constantly constituted, because you currently cannot offer choice in a district where you offer also a high school. So if there's a single district with a bunch of regional high schools, you know, that statute would have to be changed. So when people pressed her on that, you know, what she said in essence to this and some other questions as well was, look, you know, this is a proposal from the administration, and it's really going to come down to what is worked out by the legislature. And so they kind of, I mean, I say this, it's a little editorializing, but she kind of threw it back on the legislature. Well, it's really whatever we agree to, whatever the legislature comes up with is how this is actually going to work. And so while there may be some details that people are looking for, it almost felt like we might not get some details, because that was the responsibility of the legislature to legislate those details. It was interesting how that was played out. But like the idea of like the lines of districts and the boundaries that exist, like those could all be, you know, that involve some changes in the law, basically. And so that was not up to the agency of ed to determine. The other piece that they talked about was, we asked about how the boards would be constituted if you have, you know, this, what I'm going to call a super district of extending from, in essence, you know, north of White River Junction all the way down to Brattleboro, and then all the way over to Stamford and everything in between. And they described it that there would be wards created within that district, and that representatives would be elected from the wards. and that those representatives would serve on the boards. And the boards would be really part-time employees, not employees, but they'd be part-time jobs, more so than what you guys currently do as board members. And you would represent these wards that you would come from. And then the last thing is a little bit more editorial, but I think it's what the proposal signals to me is that the idea of local control is worrisome to the administration, in the sense, and I don't mean that to be a judgment, but just in the sense that they don't feel that the local boards and administrations of schools and districts and SUs have done a sufficient job at containing costs, and that therefore those decisions need to be made by boards that are not local, that are more regional, who are not tied as much to some of the whatever the sentiment, if you will, of locally sourced boards. So I think that's kind of what we heard. And then we met with members of the House and Senate Ed who came and joined us for lunch. We had some good conversations. Emily sat at my table with some of the Southeastern people and kind of talked a little bit through some different things. And and so that was good conversation. But I would say that at the VSA level, people are very curious about what some of these details are, or if there will be details released, and if so, what will they look like? So I just want to share those little Q&As that that we had with Zoe and Jill Briggs Campbell.
So in other words, Bob, what they're thinking is if they make it really big and they say, okay, we're going to meet in White River Junction to decide the budget for this year, that not everybody's going to go to White River Junction and sit in there, so they can just do whatever they want. There'll be no public scrutiny of it.
Well, and even that really the budget would really be with the foundation formula is more like, here's your dollars, and you have X number of schools to operate with those dollars and a central office. Figure out how you're going to spend it. But the budgeting is really about how you spend the dollars that they're allotting you, and there isn't really much else to really be considered. So yeah, you might be describing that somewhat accurately. Yeah. Cool. The other considerations that were thrown around were things like, statewide teachers contract and statewide calendars and things that were more they had to be more conforming, because if you're going to have single districts like that big, then you have to have some some constants. You can't have, I mean, even in RSU, which is incredibly small, we have multiple CBAs that govern different things. And so can you imagine if there's 10 or 12 different SUs combining to form the super district, as I call it, that you'd have to have there's a lot I guess my point is there's a lot of things to figure out here. And it isn't just House Ed, as the legislators pointed out, that there's, obviously ways and means, but there's also government operations, and they named a couple of other areas where there would have to be legislation and consideration taken to do something of this magnitude. And it's a significantly large proposal, and it's not only significantly large, but it's really aggressive in its timeline. We asked about, if this is supposed to be operational, what was it, July of 28, is it? Or 27?
28.
So we were like, so when you elect, the board has to get elected the previous November or previous fall in order to be in place. And then you'd have to build a budget then to be operational for July 1. And so the question was like, well, if they haven't even hired a superintendent to run, never mind a business office, you don't even know necessarily which schools will be open or closed. How do you build a budget? And the answer we got was that there'll be support from the AOE. You can imagine. Sorry, Laura. You can imagine some of the supers were suspicious of that and what that could look like. So, but yeah, it definitely felt to us like the AOE was expanding the power base. Is that how you described it, Laura? I think that's probably an accurate statement. And whether it's anyway. So that was our takeaway. But it was a very interesting meeting, and there's been a lot of new ideas thrown around. But I'm very curious to see what the next couple weeks come out with for new information. But I will be following it incredibly closely, I assure you, and be sharing it out with you guys on a regular basis as well. I'm sure as Laura will. Too, and in fact, just the other thing, the regional superintendents, Wyndham County superintendents are going to be meeting with some of the local reps and senators as well. So I think at least so Ways and Means. So Emily Kornheiser is asking us to meet with her collectively, and I think Emily and Natter will be invited to that as well. So they try to keep it to just the House and Senate Ed and Ways and Means. But Laura, I don't know if you fit into any of that or not, but perhaps not. But they asked us to try to meet with them on an every other week basis to keep us updated and get our input because they really want to have input from superintendents on this.
And I'll stop talking.
Anybody else in TV land? You're all set. Heidi?
I'm all set.
Anybody in TV land? Wanna take a stab at it? Go ahead, Greg.
Laura.
I'll take a shot at this if you don't have. Have you heard anything about how they will handle things like transportation, even from a operational standpoint? Operations is, I think about the things that I do and how hard it's been coming up here to learn the towns and the areas, to create bus routes and to work on things like that. Like it's a real struggle, and I can only imagine trying to do that when you're talking about having to also then figure out how to get those kids such long distances. And I just wonder if they've even talked through anything such as that.
Yep.
That's minutia, Greg. They've got AOE's, Department of Transportation is going to deal with that.
You're muted.
Laura, you got to unmute yourself.
They is the governor right now. The governor has a big proposal that he's making to the legislature. The legislature is going to have to take that proposal and see if there's a way to find agreement with the governor. And the legislature are the representatives of the people. So I just want to advise us all in these times to try not to say they. I'm trying not to say they. This is your government. You have a say. So the governor has not proposed that yet, level of detail. So we'll see if that level of detail is coming. And if it is not, the legislature and the governor are going to have to work through that. And the districts and the people are going to have to provide input to help make sure that if we do something of that scale, it acknowledges that. I think Bob's note that the timeline is very aggressive is one that I missed and definitely agree with.
Thank you.
So we okay with this? Everybody good? Anybody? Let's see
Define
people.
okay.
Huh?
Define okay.
Well, I mean, is there any other questions or? Oh, I see people are starting to drop there. We lost all our audience here.
I bored them to death.
Huh?
We bored them to death.
Sorry, folks. Bob, we're good. I think we're all set with everything. We got just a couple other things. I'm gonna skip over superintendent and principals updates unless there's anything, any of y'all, you're all set, Tracy. Bob, you all set? Is there anything that came up that we need to? He's maybe gone. And Francesca, you all set? She's moving.
Nope.
All set, thank you.
You like that idea?
I am all set, thank you.
Okay, do we have the financial numbers we need to approve?
Yes, we do.
Exciting.
I would like to make a motion that we approve pay warrant number 29 in the amount of $1,131.96. And then also approve pay warrant number 30 in the amount of $111.95, plus pay warrant number 31 in the amount of $126,022.62.
Second that.
Okay, so I have a motion by Kate and a second by Mike to approve the pay warrants. They should be in your packet. Is there any questions? Just another comment, Laura, is, I look through pay warrants and you find little things, I mean, not huge things, but I just think about there's been some mistakes in addition or something shouldn't have been paid by us and paid by somebody else over the years. And I'm just thinking, that, one big super district, all them things are gonna, just get washed under the carpet. And I gotta tell you, just in Wyndham Central, when I approve their pay warrants, there's usually 2 packets. It has nothing to do with payroll, and they average like 250 to 300 pages that we go through with backup sheets and mileage we pay for for things, and it's amazing, and I just can't see that at a 2 county level. But anyways, there's no other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bob, you're still here. How come?
Can't get enough.
I mean, I just was enjoying the conversation, that's all.
Is there any other new business I missed, Tracy? You said Francesca's somewhere there.
She's all set.
Okay, she's all set. Bob, you all set?
So this should not be 23, it should be 20.
Laura, you all good?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody here?
None.
Okay. Anybody in TV land? Consent agenda. Minutes of the 1/6/25 meeting. Does anybody have any issues?
No issues.
Okay, if there's no concerns, no issues, by unanimous consent, we'll approve the January 6th, 25 minutes. I have no correspondence. Does anybody have any correspondence? There's nothing in the packet, I don't believe. Okay, parking lot, we don't need to cover. Next meeting is February 3rd, 2024, 6 p.m. at the Wardsboro School. Also, bring your calendars, folks, to that next meeting too, because again, our 3rd Monday is another holiday. So we'll have to figure out when we want to meet around that. So, and then don't forget Thursday night at 7 o'clock, Bob,
Yes.
in Leland and Gray.
I thought it was 6:30.
6:30? I don't remember.
6:30 is the Westboro one.
Oh, sorry, okay. I can see.
7 is WCA, is the Super Board, 7 o'clock. Be there, be square. Is it, have we sent out at least an invite to remind people?
No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's coming soon though.
Okay. And so is snow.
7 o'clock.
7 p.m.
Thursday.
Okay.
Horrible graphs.
Next thing on the agenda, thing everybody waits for, that we're half an hour late,
I
but
would like to make a motion to adjourn at 7:58 p.m.
I immediately second that.
hey, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
It's been a wonderful night.